the parts of us that are below the line, if we just try to reject it or pretend they're not there, that turns into a shadow self.
Yeah.
And so that's not the way out. The way out is actually to love our experiences that created that, love ourselves. A lot of inner child work, maybe a lot of these wounds happened in childhood. So how do you love that part of yourself that's scared or is confused? Maybe that little boy that's angry because he wasn't getting love or whatever it might be. It's actually addressing those things directly with an attitude of love and support for ourselves and then eventually other people as well. That's a part of the work. It's looking at whatever we hide, repress, deny, that's the shadow, and saying, okay, how can I love this part of myself? How can I shift the beliefs that created this attitude that I'm not worthy or whatever it might be? And so it's not just trying to jump above the line and pretend we're up there. It's actually dealing with what's below the line.
Yeah. And that's the deep inner work that we as spiritual people and we in the New Thought community embrace, because we know that when we free that energy up that's trying to contain that or help that little child who's wounded in there, protect them, that once that child actually gets what that part of ourselves actually gets, that it's safe, that it's okay, that, those traumas or past childhood experiences or woundings that we have from the past, when we actually deal with those, the child goes, oh, okay, there's an adult in the room, and actually can become that, as Jung would say, the golden child, can really fully express that sense of creativity and co-creativity with the universe, as we know it, to be that playful, fun, engaging self that we all know that we were as a child at some point, and to have that be liberated, to have that be loved, to have that be celebrated and even encouraged. What a concept.
Yeah. There's a saying at Naropa that you have to be somebody before you can be nobody.
I love it. I love it. How perfect.
It's just in a saying, basically, you need to have a healthy ego. You need to do whatever's required to heal your ego wounds and so forth before you can transcend, before you can be nobody, in the sense so that from a Buddhist perspective, there is no self. It's an illusion that we have this solid self. So we're kind of a nobody. We're just a spiritual field or whatever you want to call it. But you can't get there until you go deal with whatever the ego has in store for you, the wounds that you're dealing with, or like I said, erroneous beliefs, that kind of thing. So being somebody before you be nobody.
Nice. How Buddhist too, be somebody before you're nothing or everything, depending. Could be. Well, that brings us, you mentioned transcendence, so that brings us to that kind of that next step in those three of, how do we transcend the ego, maybe for lack of a better word in some respects, but how do we bless the ego in such a way that it doesn't need to act out in our lives? How do we really, how do we transcend that?
Right.
That part of ourselves, that overly protective, that, nervous, fearful, angry, whatever, all the things that it can be.
Yeah. Well, it's at its core, it's just remembering who we truly are. We're not our ego. We're not fear. We're not these beings that are going to, struggle and die. We're more than that. We are this higher self, this spiritual essence. And so there's a lot of egoic propensities, like fear or anger, whatever. You can look at those and go, okay, why is this coming up for me? Why am I afraid in this situation? Well, this is my ego trying to defend itself. Thinks this is a dangerous situation or whatever. And then you can find I would call this spiritual alternative. Sometimes the ego needs to be afraid because it is fear of a dangerous situation, but most of the time it's an erroneous emotion, erroneous belief that something is scary or that's dangerous. And so coming back to the truth in this case would be that we cannot be destroyed. We can't die. Our spiritual essence is durable. Nothing can take it away. So it's coming back to the true truth about who we are. And there's in my book, I have a whole table of all these egoic propensities, competitiveness, distrust, so forth, that our ego projects, and has an alternative, how you can look at whatever situation it is from this spiritual perspective that dispels a lot of the negative emotions, beliefs, whatever, thought patterns or whatever, so you can come back to the truth of who we are, which is these spiritual beings that, there's nothing really threatening us. We're on this planet, with a lot of scary looking stuff, but and if we let ourselves be engulfed in that illusion that the world is dangerous and scary, we're going to stay in this stuck egoic place. If we can shift the perspective to, well, not really, even if I get hit by a truck tomorrow, I'm just going to heaven and I'll figure out something else to do. It's not like I'm really gone. So remembering the truth of who we are is the best way to deal with our egoic propensities.
Yeah. I love how Ernest Holmes' perspective, he shared what his perspective of the afterlife experiences, and that he felt we spiral upwards. We always spiral upwards. And that even though we may be these more subtle beings energetically, we may move into this, nirvanic type state or heaven type of state of consciousness, of awareness, of perspective, of being able to see beyond all the ego stuff, but from just pure spirit, and to be able to see life, to be able to see experience, to be able to go, oh, where's my next highest good? Where's my next greatest good to go to? Because we are that evolving spirit that, I believe anyhow, from the beginning of time, from the Big Bang, from the separation of oneness into everything, and that experience of spirit or life, or the life urge becoming everything and wanting to experience everything. And so it's experiencing life through Kelly and through Eamon and through everybody who's watching this, and through everyone on this planet and everybody in this galaxy, and God only knows how many civilizations that is, and everybody in this corner of the universe, and then the whole universe. It's like how beautiful that it knew oneness, and then it wanted to experience diversity. And so, that was his opinion on, we go back to that infinite diversity, and then we're at choice on that soul level. What's going to serve my soul evolution?
You make a point about the spiraling upward, and I think that's really true, both on the personal level, and I think as on the planetary, the societal level. It's but that process isn't smooth and easy. We run into some very difficult circumstances, but every one of those circumstances is an opportunity for growth and learning, and that's kind of how humans grow. If we could foresee, what needs to happen and to jump over the hard stuff, that would be easier. But we just face a lot of difficulties here on this planet. We overcome them, we learn, we grow, and that's part of the spiraling upward, even though it feels tough a lot of the time. And the same is true on the planetary level, I think. Look at what's going on in the world today. It's some really difficult things that look very fearful, and it's pretty discouraging. But if you look at it from this perspective that, okay, the planet is facing challenges, the planet has some things we got to overcome, and we're going to evolve beyond those to our higher level of consciousness as a collective consciousness on the planet. So it's a different way to hold ourselves. It's a different way to hold our society, our civilization, our planet, believing and knowing that eventually we're spiraling upward to a higher level of consciousness, closer to God, closer to oneness.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the truth of it. And it's hard. Like, I mean, the situation that we're in right now as a the United States of America is a little bit nutter butter, to say the least, and it's pushing all of the old narratives around masculinity, that it's bullying, it's not compassionate, it's all for me, myself. It's really what we're noticing politically and societally is people are showing up and really exhibiting a lot of the most negative masculine traits of racism, sexism, homophobia, all that stuff. And for us in New Thought, it's easy because I see you're a spirit, you're a spirit, you're a spirit. It's not so dependent on what's the color of your skin or your gender or sexual preference or any of that kind of stuff, because it's like spirit's just living its best life through us. And that's the truth of what we're here for.
Right. Yeah. In my book, I talk about the collective ego as well. It's not just within each of us, but our society has a collective ego, which we're seeing a lot of that emerge today. I think it's always been there. It's just as circumstances get more difficult, our egoic tendencies become more apparent. And you see groups of people that are all acting in an egoic way with fear or domination or hate of people that are different than them. Those are all qualities of ego, but they're being demonstrated on a collective basis now as well as the individual.